of the season?
Yeah, obviously 4-0 is nice over the weekend. 2-0 for both teams. It's a good start. Different teams. The women's team is a lot of new players. We graduated the top 3 from last year's team, and so dealing with a couple of transfers and a freshman, and most of them are in the lineup and playing, and so that was their first match experience, and so it's a little hard to simulate in practice what that's going to feel like, the nerves and all that for them, and we played teams that I think if we played 10 times, I would hope that we would beat those same 2 teams. They played well. I thought they challenged us, especially in the second sets of both matches. They made some adjustments, but I will say we pulled away in a lot of matches. We kind of dominated the matches I thought we should, and so from that perspective, I think I expected that if we handled business, we would win, but I was happy with the way they won and that it didn't get too close and we didn't drag things out and have to play some of those nervy points at the end. Doubles looked great. Kind of crossovers, a big point of emphasis in the off season for Kyle and I, my assistant coach, and with both teams this fall to really hone in on doubles. The number of 4-3 matches in college tennis has grown over the last couple of years to where it's that doubles point has become more and more crucial. So it was nice to see that we spent as much time as we did on doubles this fall, and that it kind of paid off. We kind of ran away with. I don't think we lost a set in doubles, men or women, this weekend, so that was good to see that pay off. And for the men, similar first match. I think a team that was a little younger than us, a little less experienced than our men's team. We got out there with a 6-1 win, pretty comfortably. And then Idaho, I believe that's the first time in program history we've beaten Idaho. They're very good. I would say if our level or on ranking is maybe 10% better on paper. So to come out of, and it's an interesting building, great courts, but it's a 4-court facility, so you're not all on at the same time. And at one point we were down. We needed to win one of the last 2 matches and lost at number 6, and so it all came down to number 5. And at one point in that match, Ethan was down 6-2, or down 6-2, down 5-2. The other player serving at 30-love, and so we're 2 points away, 1 game away from losing that match several times. So that you're on the brink there. So just in any situation coming out of that is pretty positive. I think it kind of pumps everybody up for the energy for the next week or the next couple of weeks. And yeah, it's going to get challenging. The men's schedule is the toughest part of their non-conference schedule is the first 6, 7, 8 matches, and so we play a lot of teams very similar to Idaho's level over the next couple of weeks. So just anything to gain confidence, anything to kind of trust each other, look down the courts, and the guy next to you on the left and the guy next to you on the right is doing everything they should do and fighting and competing hard, and their level's good, so builds confidence. I think for the women, I'm going really long on the opening statement, sorry. For the women, it was really nice to see the kind of the bonding with so many new players. I think the first time you go on the road, play some matches, team dinners, it's the first time everybody really got to spend a lot of time away from choice together, and so that was bodes well, I think, for the next couple of weeks.
How did Ethan flip that match?
So up front, I was with the women this week. Kyle, my associate head coach, was with the men. So I got a lot of this from him. But he, in all fairness, he will admit he played an awful first set and a half of the match. He was playing somebody I think he should have dictated more to. He was letting that player dictate to him when he didn't really stick with anything for very long, was kind of all over the place, and even mentally was kind of down on himself for a little while. And then as Ethan did last year, he's pretty. Once the thought gets in his mind that things aren't going well, he does get pretty tough. And so for the most part, I think he settled down, started to make a few more balls, put the pressure on the other player to actually win the point instead of handing some things to him. And once it flipped, he won 11 games in a row. So from that spot down 2-6, 2-5, and winning 11 games in a row, he just settled down and played his game. And that's kind of the name of the game. If you can find one or two things that work, there's no need to go away from it. And I think he was just going away from it for a set and a half and then kind of honed in on what he does well, and it worked.
Thoughts on what Andrea was able to do this weekend?
Yeah, it's tough. You could see all week she was a little bit nervous playing her first match for UND. We've benefited from the transfer portal here quite a bit in the last couple of years. She's obviously another one of those players, but you could tell she wanted to impress her teammates. She wanted to make the coaches feel validated for playing her at number 1. She was pretty nervous going in, but she if she needed about 5 or 6 games to get going in the first match, and then the rest of that match and the whole second match she was dialed in. So she's she also knows, I mean, she's talked openly that she's replacing some pretty good players at 1 and 2 in the lineup for UND, and so that's on her mind. So I think, if more than anything, my guess is that she'll play even better the next couple of matches because she's kind of settled in a little bit. I think that was a big thing for her, was who she was replacing, and the captains on the team, were going to look to her to be a little bit of a leader on the court.
What elements of her game can lead her to success in
with Andrea still? Yeah. So great back. She's got an interesting game. Really good flat backhand. I mean, a lot of the women at the top of the college level and the pro level hit a pretty big two-handed flat backhand. That's her as well. She can go anywhere on the court with it from any situation. She returns really well with her two-handed backhand. That's really the shot that sets things up for her. I think what works in her advantage is a lot of players get used to forehand to-forehand rallies, and she takes you out of that. She's pretty savvy about. She protects her forehand a little bit by having a great almost a high, heavy shot with her forehand that she can take down the line into somebody's backhand, which almost makes them play back to her backhand. So she's really good at hitting the right ball to get to her strengths. She will continue to work on her forehand. I think she's got a weapon that she doesn't know about in her forehand. I think that'll get better during the season. It's more going to be a trust issue, and how often is she willing to trust it at 3-all in the set or on a deuce point. But She has a great first serve. She pretty much sets her points up with a first serve and then her backhand, and then she's crafty. She very easily can detect what somebody doesn't like to do, and she makes them do that, and then she's pretty good at tricking them into getting into her patterns.
Coach, what's the biggest thing you saw from the off-season program that translated into you guys' first weekend of matches?
Yeah, this is more of what was a little bit different in a good way than anything that's been wrong before. I really liked how the team handled the breaks, this big long summer break, and then the winter break right before this season. But I would say the two teams came back from both breaks better than any two teams in my college coaching career. They looked like they had done. I know they worked with our strength coach on a program for the summer. It looks like every one of them bought into that. I know they all played. We're not really checking in on them or requiring them to do anything, but they came back on day one, both in the fall and in January. Brought them back a couple of days before school started, ready to go. I felt like we lost nothing from where we were before finals or before they went home in last spring, and maybe in several cases they came back looking, their tennis and their fitness condition level looked better. So that's probably the biggest take. I think I could go back. I don't know how many times we started 2-0 on both sides and looking optimistic about the next couple of weeks, but it makes a big difference when you're not backtracking. You're trying to spend 2 or 3 weeks while you're playing matches trying to get back to the level of fitness or tennis level where you were when you left. So I credit them. I credit our strength coach Tariq Beach has done a great job. He's dialed in, they're bought into what he's doing, and so I don't know if it was much about anything we did different as coaches, more than just they really took it upon themselves. Both teams feel like this is a really good opportunity this season for them, with where the other Summit League teams are, and I think they were dialed in from when they got here in August.
And obviously, huge confidence boost for the players, but for you guys as the coaching staff, what was it like to see them take down a team like Idaho and really start this season off on the right foot?
Yeah, I mean, only one or two. We had a couple players who played when we played Idaho 2 years ago at their place that remembered, but it's a fun place to play. They've got an interest in their tennis courts are in their football stadium. Basically, it's a fairly new facility. Unfortunately, ESPN wasn't there this year. They were there 2 years ago, but the players all talked. They had it in their heads. It's a pretty interesting venue and pretty cool venue to play at. But just the number of players on our team that played opponents against Idaho that were their level or maybe even a little bit better and came out on top. And really, I've said this about our men's team for a year or two. They don't know what they don't know in the best way possible. They don't worry about altitude in Denver. They don't worry about a team that's ranked higher. They really don't do much other than go out and try to play their game for 4 or 5 games. And so when it works after 4 or 5 games, their confidence just grows. And so that's kind of the micro version of what I think Kyle and I are talking about. Like the fact that they won the match, for how this team thinks, that there's a much better chance they'll play better than be overconfident and kind of feel like, okay, we're here, we've arrived. For them, it's more validation that their things work. And so I think with both teams, I'd be surprised if our level doesn't just keep getting better for the next couple of weeks based on how this weekend went.
All right, my final question is you talked about the importance of doubles and having that focus on that. What was it like to see that really take off here?
Yeah, and so I think two things have happened in college doubles in the last 10 years. It's become a much more important point. There's a lot of parity. We never used to see teams in the 40s beat teams in the 20s or teams in the 50s beat a ranked team, and that happens now. And the number of 4-3 matches are just, it's growing every year. And so doubles has become more important. So I think coaches are working on doubles. So in my experience, I see a lot of teams that are better in doubles than they used to be, and you can tell that they're working on that. And then, it's become more of a pro-style doubles. When I was in college 10 years ago, you still had a lot of guys on the team that were playing singles as doubles players. They were on a doubles court, but they were playing mostly singles. And now you see what I would call real doubles being played more often on the women's side as well. And that was probably where I get the biggest amount of happiness from the matches. From the 6 women that played, from the 6 men that played doubles this weekend, they were playing a style of doubles that I think makes sense for doubles and makes sense for where college doubles is going now. Very aggressive, a lot of net play. We've worked on a lot of different formations to get them involved at the net. My biggest concern was that it might get tough to do that when there was pressure, when we were at 3-all, when it was down a break point. And from talking to Kyle with the guys and from what I saw with the women, we were willing to stick to what we've worked on in practice and try that. And that only helps if they can see success early from trying those things that they weren't really used to trying before. So I think it was the style of doubles we played and their willingness to do it on big points. It was probably the thing I was happiest about.